Hello, welcome to Love is a Battlefield, the domestic violence podcast. My name is Tilly Moore, and this is an extra little something something episode. I don't know if I'm going to give it a number yet. You'll know because you've clicked on it by the time I post it. What it is, it's kind of like a halfway episode, a mini schmini episode. Maybe I'll go to so things are changing in my work-life balance, and I might not be able to post as much. I don't know. We're going to have to see what happens. Obviously, as I've whinged and whinged about it before, I get paid zero smackaroos for doing this. And I make zero to make it. So it's all out of my own pocket, my own time. And I've noticed as I am busy, the quality reduces. If you haven't noticed, we have all noticed, girl. And it is, yeah, it's embarrassing. It's awkward. So it can't get any worse. We think that, but things are about to change, with work-life balance, and time is going to be a bit less. And so I might not be able to provide the low level of quality you've come to admire and expect. So we'll see what happens. So things could be changing. So just prepare yourself for random episodes at random times, maybe skipping some. I don't know, but this is a mini one. Why is it a mini? This is a topic I have had in my to-do list topics. I write little notes in my notes app, and I think of things I want to talk about. And when I started the podcast, this is something I wrote in there: the impact of domestic violence on children. When there are DV groups with women who have survived DV, they always warn the participants the week before the children one to say, hey, next week's heavy. You don't have to come. If you come, we'll have tissues, but it can be very emotionally draining. I did go to one like that and thought, oh, it'll be fine. And then everyone's crying. And then I did another different course years later, and I think I actually skipped that day because my children have been through other traumas as well as the trauma of witnessing and being a target within, because men who are abusive be abusing because that's how they roll. So I had thought, right, I can't do it. I got to a point and cut because I kept putting the episode off thinking it'll be emotional, it'll be a trigger. But then I realized I'm not going to do that to myself. No one really it's not really changing the world. I don't have that many people really listening. So I have thousands of people listening. So uh, I did want to have it as a topic. I definitely want to put the title up. I definitely wanted to bring it up and mention it because it's a huge, huge thing, and there's a big impact there. But I didn't want to deep dive because when I deep dive and I go right into those memories and I just spill and share all the things, I just dive right in there and just share everything. And then I start I can never say this word, renumerating over it, over the days following, and going over and over it. And I thought that one I've gone over so much that no. But what I want to do is lightly touch on it, and we're going to keep things light. And I wanted to start by saying, yes, there is a huge impact on children for DV. And that's not told to make anyone feel guilty. It's just to make people be aware that these horrible, abusive, weak, pathetic, narcissistic people, abusers, do impact children. They know they impact their children. They don't care. And so it's not just about us. If you have children, it's affecting them too. As a child who witnessed stuff, yeah. That's all I'll say on that. Yeah. Huge impact on children and them growing up and them continuing, not by their choice, but through being vulnerable, having lived through it, that cycle. And then they become magnets to abusers, growing up, and the cycle continues, and it's just devastating. So it's a huge, huge impact on children too. And you might not think they can hear. You might not think they know. They know they can hear. My daughter told me years later she would not sleep. And that's why she kept getting sick and everything while I was being abused, because she would stay up because she thought he was gonna murder me, and she wanted to be awake to see if she could help when he did. And just hearing that, it just breaks your heart. Oh, look, I touched on something. There's so much more I could share. There's a lot. It's absolutely devastating because at the time you close all the doors, you try, but you've got this huge beast following you around, tearing door handles off. You're trying to keep things quiet and discreet. You're trying to protect your kids. You're trying to keep him and his loud abuse where he's just screaming accusations at you like you're a nut job, you're this, you're that, really trying to get your kids to hate you by yelling out things and following you around screaming these things at you. And you try and get him to go away from your kids and protect your kids and do everything you can, and then you leave him for your kids, so you do what you can, but even then it still, has an impact, and it's had a very, very, very negative impact on mine, even though they'd already had trauma from very, very bad men. And I'm not going to go into that either. So I just wanted to touch on it. And I also wanted to say this other thing that's a bit weird, maybe, but worth sharing. So I noticed over the years following the trauma of the abuser that little kids screaming and being naughty and their parents doing nothing and just being in public, creating a ruckus and screaming and being loud and was really starting to me. I did find out I was neurodivergent, so that's part of it, overwhelming like with extra sounds and stimulation. So that's part of it, but it was doing my head in. Like I was like, wait a minute. I used to love kids. Why have I suddenly become the Grinch? Like overnight I've turned into the Wicked Witch of the West when it comes to kids. Like literally I feel like can you not? Like can you just be quiet? Please, please be quiet. Like what? Why did I become that? So I explored it and really thought about it. And I was like, what is it? What is it? And I went deep into me old brain, thinking and thinking, and I realized kids are a PTSD trigger for me. Ugh, it sounds like why? You were abused by a man. Men did bad things to my kids when they were little. A man did. And I did everything as a parent, like to protect. And as soon as I found out, huge, like police, everything, like action was taken. So I did everything in my power and knowledge to do what I can to protect them. But as a mum, even though this deceptive, evil manipulator has, done things to them that you had no idea, it was out of your control. And then as soon as you knew, you took action and you absolutely did everything you could. There's still a part of me that was traumatized by thinking I'm a bad mum. I shouldn't be around kids because my kids got hurt and I couldn't prevent that. And then with the DV, we blame ourselves because we invited this man into our lives thinking we were doing a good thing for our kids. Like, oh, look, we're, going to be a family. There's a nice stepdad and here's like a partner. And, we're thinking we're choosing right. I even got friends to assess them and interview them, make sure they're safe. I vetted and everything. And then this person came in. But at the same time, I still made the decision to bring this person into our life. And I still feel I failed as a mother. And so when I see little kids running around being naughty and their parents not doing anything and the kids are just unreal, and I think it's also my own childhood because I was very, very controlled. I had to be good, quiet, sit in a Catholic church perfectly still, do not move. uh, and I was that because I was very scared. I'm not gonna go into it deep, but I had to I had to be good, and I was good, and I was very quiet out of a lot of fear. But I wanted to share this because I thought I just become this horrible person. Like, why don't I like kids? But then I realized like they're triggering me because I have this deep thing where it's like kids who are being happy and screaming and joyous and even being naughty, they're still free, aren't they? I was not allowed to do that. So it might have been a little bit of that. Because I think, well, you're gonna grow up to be bad, especially seeing little boys. I see little boys in public walking all over their mum, like their mum's like, yes, sir, no, sir, how many bags full, sir, but not the same to the daughter. Like, and the boys just walking all over and going, oh, what they like demanding, like being aggressive towards their mum, even hitting them up, and then mum's just like, I just see that dynamic sometimes and I'm like, oh, future abuser, future abuser. I'm like, I shouldn't be thinking like that. That's so projecty. But sometimes I get those thoughts and I'm like, don't be like, that's not right. Like, that's a kid. Let kids be kids. Uh, but also I think the majority of it stems from I failed as a parent because my kids have suffered trauma from men consciously choosing to do behaviors and abuse to my children and doing things that I wasn't aware of at times. So the men chose to do this, but we were brought up in a patriarchal, misogynistic society that said everything comes down to the woman. The mother has to protect the children. It's anything that happens is her fault. If the man chooses to rape kids, if the man chooses to beat kids, if the man chooses to beat the mother in front of the kids, that's the mother's fault for being there for that situation, not the man for consciously selecting his behavior, his criminal behavior. So I try and tell myself, no, it's the man's fault. These men are criminals. When I knew something was wrong, I did everything I could, everything. And I, as a mental health professional, learned of so many situations where children disclose, and this might have happened to you, and I really feel for you if it did. Like, I'm so sorry this happened to you, where the children disclose sexual abuse to the mum from either a father or stepfather or uncle or someone in the family or someone they know, and the mother dismissed it, disregarded it, gaslit the child, and bullied them and said it was their fault. Like, so many patients we had that were so unwell, the majority of the issue was that they went to their mother and they didn't believe them and they didn't keep them safe and they allowed a man to continue to rape their child. A lot of the mothers were like manipulated and gaslit by the abuser. That's the majority of situations, actually. They were trauma bonded to the abuser, and the abuser lied to them and manipulated them and convinced them that no, it's all in your kid's head. And I have been in relationships where they always try this. The abusers always try and isolate you from your kids, like emotionally and socially. Like, they try and separate that relationship you have with your kids. They try and get in your kid's head about you and get in your head about your kid. And you don't let them do that, but they try. And obviously, over time in situations, it works for a lot. So I was mortified when disclosures were made to me, and I did everything and anything. It broke me. I was never the same again. I died on the inside as a person. I've not been the same person since. I know I'm sort of fiddling around that topic, and I have kind of brought that up before. It's just something I'm not going to have a full story time on for obvious reasons. It's too much. I'll just be crying the whole time. But so it shocks me that there are parents that can do that, but I do understand trauma bond. I do understand being manipulated and gaslit and brainwashed. But and I can't understand how a disclosure of sexual abuse cannot be believed. But these men are so manipulative. But then I've heard of situations where years later, when the mum's elderly and the girl's grown up, the mum still dismisses her and says, "Oh, get over it. That was however long ago. That was nothing. Grow up. You know, you're so negative." Like, they keep being nasty. And oh my gosh, if there's someone out there in that situation, know that there are a lot in that situation, and be kind to yourself, because that is heavy and that is a lot. And I really, really feel for anyone who is in that situation, because that is absolutely heartbreaking. It's not your fault. And unfortunately, it's one of those situations where there's nothing you can do to change that. And, I wish you had been given a different mum, and as a lot of people wish they'd been given different dads, and or mum and dad, it's not your fault. And I think you're doing really well. So kudos to you, and self-care, self-love, because that's really unfair to you. So I still, as a mother, feel that my children, especially one of them, have had, and that one has had multiple traumas, all caused by criminal behavior from men. It is the men's fault. I know consciously in every situation I did everything I could to prevent, protect, and do what I could with the knowledge I had. with the abuser. I left them. There was some trauma bond at one stage, but even though he lied to everyone I worked with and everyone I knew that we were together, at the end we weren't. We weren't. He lied, and he says I invited him over and we were together. He would just text people, "Oh yeah, I'm going over to see her," and all this stuff or something. No, no, we weren't together. No, he was actively stalking me. I mean, I had trauma bond, and I was still feeling those trauma bond feelings at the time, but I was doing everything I could to try and get away from this person. So but I still feel like generally that they're my babies. It was my job to protect, being the mama bear, and bad men did bad things. And I guess my own internalized misogyny is like, well, you're the woman, so everything's your fault. It is the men's fault, but naturally we blame ourselves still a little bit. So when I do see kids screaming and having tanties and carrying on, and the parents just, how they just keep shopping. I had a child that went through a period of time of having, because she's ASD, and having meltdowns, only for a period. But there was a time, and she had one or two when I was at the shop, and I would leave because I would not do that to someone else. Like, I think of other people. And so I would just stop, grab my things, and walk out. I'd maybe take her down the toilet, settle her down, talk to her and everything. I would not just keep going with someone who was screaming, knowing how screaming triggers, like raised voices is a trigger, especially raised men's voices is a trigger for PTSD, for people who've been through abuse. So a child screaming actually impacts the hypothalamus of a woman. So women, before you have kids, it's kind of not switched on. You can hear kids screaming, you can hear kids crying, and sometimes you can just like sleep or whatever and just tune it out. Once you get pregnant, your body changes. Everything changes in your body and your brain to adapt and turn you into a mother machine. And a mother machine. And your hypothalamus changes. So when you then hear a baby scream or cry, anytime after you've ever been pregnant, your hypothalamus triggers distress signal when you hear that sound. So your brain will go, fix it, distress, not good, something not good's happening, something not good, fix it. Because traditionally that would cause us to go and tend to the baby. And that's what makes mothers be able to tend to their young. The hypothalamus is like, do something. If you could just chill, like a man, sleep to it, and just tune it out, you might not hear the sounds or be able to tune out from a child or a baby who needs you. So instinctively, our bodies and brains change so that we will care for our young. So anytime after having kids, my brain would do that. A lot of women say, oh, my boobs hurt or something. Or they were breastfeeding at the time and they'd hear another baby cry and milk would come out, because if you hear a baby cry, that also triggers the letdown reflex in your body to make more milk, because it thinks it's your baby and it thinks, oh, must make milk for baby. So we are very much designed to be mothers. Once we've got pregnant, everything turns into mother. Like, life is not the same again. So when I hear babies cry, my hypothalamus is like, do something, fix it. And so there's that. So that's not helpful. There's being neurodivergent, like, oh, sound, irritating sound, bad sound. So there's that. And then there's the PTSD coming in, like, well, you failed your children. Your children got hurt. Like, so you're a bad mom. So why are you like, why are you upset about that kid screaming and that mom doing nothing about it? Like, you're just evil because you let your kids get abused by men. Like, all that negative self-talk. So there's so much trauma and everything coming into it. And I did really explore it and look into it and realize it was like a PTSD trigger of some sort. And there were various reasons why that came into play. So now I am a bit kinder to myself when I'm out and about and there's kids screaming. I'm like, just breathe. I don't react. I don't respond because that's my issues. It's all my issues. I'm not projecting at other people. They don't deserve that. The kid doesn't deserve it. The parents don't, even though my brain is saying, fix it. my hypothalamus is like, fix it. I'm like, hypothalamus, you're not too kind there. Like, you're saying fix it. You keep saying, and your brain is like, and the more the baby screams or the kid screams and it gets louder, the more your hypothalamus is like, do something. So you're like, I can't, like, no, brain, just no, that's not healthy. So I'm okay. I mean, internally, probably not, but I'm not going to do anything. So if you have little kids and there are people who like, women who are like, shut your kids up, do something. Just know their hypothalamus is hypothalamusing, and also there's probably some trauma history going on there. And maybe they're a bit neurospicy as well. Who knows? But yeah, I decided to be kinder and not hate myself because I was hating. Every time my brain went, oh, sound, do something, that's not good. Oh, look, the mother's doing nothing. Like, why can't you respect people around you and just like tell them to stop being naughty? You know, just discipline. I'm not asking you to beat them up. And every time I think of that too, I'm thinking, you know, do something, discipline your child. I'm not thinking, and then my brain will go, oh, discipline. Oh, so that means like abuse the child. Oh, well, your kids were abused. So you're an abuser, you're part of the problem. Like I go on this whole cycle and it's just this it's just all true. Like it all leads to the other thing. And it just triggers me to think, well, I feel guilty when my brain responds like, oh, I don't like that sound. And I don't like how the mum's not stopping them and disciplining them or doing anything to, you know, teach them to respect others. Like, I then go into this deep dive about, well, how can you talk? Because look what happened to your kids, you know? So I, it just becomes this big trigger. And so in figuring that out, I'm now just mindful of it. And so I'm nicer to myself. Like I get the thoughts like, and I'm like, that's just what happens. That's just what my brain does when it hears that, it sees that. It has nothing to do with me. Please don't come near me. Because if you want a reaction, my hypothalamus wants to give you one, and I'm not going to. I'm not projecting my issues at other people today, despite what my hypothalamus is trying to tell me, and my trauma response. Like, and yeah, the guilt just comes. It's just like this pattern, and it just comes to guilt. Like, yeah, so it's a big trigger. So if there is anyone out there and you've been through something and you're wondering why you are starting to be the Grinch, it's just that. It's a bit of that. And it's okay. As long as you're not doing what your brain would like you to do and screaming at the kids and going, shut up. Or like I've seen parents who dis they don't ever teach their kids respect for others or discipline or anything like that, you know, and then the kids, you know, misbehaving and the parents, you know, they don't care. And, you know, that happens. It's all good. It's great. But then you see a stranger who that kid doesn't know, just politely tell the kid, what are you doing that for? Or, you know, you see him say, be quiet, or why are you talking to your mother like that? Or you see them say one line or something of what would be considered discipline, like, don't, what'd you do that for? Don't do that. But they don't like yell it or anything. But you hear like a stranger say something, and that kid immediately like pulls their head in and starts behaving. Whereas the mum is like, please don't do that. No, we don't do that. We shouldn't, you know, we shouldn't hit other people. We don't hit women. Don't hit that lady. You know, they say it and the kid just walks all over the mum. And then a stranger says, hey, don't do that. They usually go, "Oh, that's a stranger," because the child has learnt to walk all over their mum and disrespect their mum. And maybe there's a man in the house teaching them that misogyny kind of thing. And the child's like a little boy or something. You don't know the dynamic. And I don't want to assume that's the dynamic. But strangers, when they intercept, sometimes the child is like, oh, and that's the first time they've ever heard, don't do that in public. Like, we don't do that. We don't scream at other people. We don't hit other people. We don't throw groceries around the store. You know, something like behavior that impacts others. We don't do that. So It is tempting to be that person sometimes, thinking, I'm actually going to help this child and say something. So the child, because you think they're going to grow up doing that and they're going to get in trouble from people and no one's ever told them. And, I really feel for the kids who, are being like shown stuff. But then I think, no, because the root cause is probably projection. So I'm going to keep my mouth shut and just, the mum they'll get there. The kid will get there. They'll do it. It's none of my business. Don't project. It's just gonna make you look crazy. And if your hypothalamus is doing that, well, just think, look, if I was in caveman days and there was a random baby crying out in the field, I would hear it. And my brain would tell me to go and do something about it rather than sit by the fire in the cave. So good. It's doing what it should do. It's a healthy brain. Anyway, that was an interesting rant there about that. But yeah, so I wanted to just touch on that today and just say, hey, DV very, very, very greatly more than you can imagine impacts kids. It impacts them more than direct abuse. Like we're adults, we have an adult brain. Yes, we might be covered in all the bruises, but the kid, and you might think the kid's not even witnessing. Oh, they're witnessing. Like there's sound, there's doors doing banging or something. They know. They always know as a kid who's been there, like and it really impacts them. And I'm not telling you that to make you feel crap about yourself, just to have that knowledge. And maybe when we are trauma bonded, sometimes we can't get away from them because of that trauma bond. But if we know it's impacting our kids and hurting our kids, we will do it for them despite our brainwashed little trauma bond brain going, no, you love them, stay with them. You're like, no, I have to be a mum before I'm a partner to this abusive piece of shit. So there you go. There you go. 26 minutes. Oh, it's like a full episode. So what am I even saying at the start? Gaslighting myself. Like, you know me when I say, oh, it's a quick one. It's never a quick one. But I didn't deep dive. I stayed on the surface. No tears today. Good for me. So there you go. Talk to you next week. I have one request. Two actually. Listen to me. Listen to me. The usual one, stay safe. I mean it. I mean it. I actually mean it. I think about you guys often. And number two is email me. Tell me what's going on. Give me your whole tea time, story time, spill the tea. I'll share it. I will. I will not share names or identifying information, so you can't get defamation crap from your abuser. But tell me, I'll share. I'll literally tell people your story. Email me. It is in the show notes, which is the details when you click on the episode, wherever you see this episode. Or the email address is liabfpodcast at gmail, I had to think that, gmail.com. And that stands for Love is a Battlefield. liabfpodcast at gmail.com. Email me, tell me your story. Tell me, I'll share it. I'll tell everyone. I will spill that tea, sis. All right, stay safe. Bye, legends. Love ya.